All right, you maggots, listen up. Now, I've owned this Hallicrafters SX 42 for over a week now, and I've been working on it a little bit every day. I have all the AM band, the shortwave working. I'm working on the FM on the discriminator. I wanted to tell you, there's only one reason you would buy this radio, and that's because it's extremely challenging. When you buy it, before you turn it on, you should recap it and change some of the resistors. The resistors aren't as important. When they go bad, they go up in value. They won't do any damage. They'll just degrade the sensitivity of the radio. So the caps I showed you in previous videos are very hard to get at. If you buy them on eBay in groups, like you buy a bunch of .02s and a group of .05s, you can get them for about 40 cents a piece. So that's not the real problem. The real problem is when you go to buy one of these, they're very expensive. It's like the people that are selling them know people want them because they're a real pain in the ass to work on. And a lot of people, when you reach your summit in electronics, which I think my summit was a few years ago, but in other words, every project I do gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, if you know me from the past, I'm the guy that did the CNC machines. I sold plans. I got heavily into that for 20 years. But my other hobby has always been radios, working on them and fixing them. And this thing I saw as a challenge after doing all the other ones. And there really isn't any stations really to listen to. It comes down to having something to work on. And in the case of after you've been on radios for a few years, you'll hear that this radio is a real ball breaker. It's a real challenge. And you might buy one. And be very careful what you pay for it, because there's some real clunkers on eBay. In other words, $400 plus shipping, and they're missing parts. They're all scratched up. They're all rusty. But when you do go to work on, if you've been in the business for years, or you've worked on a lot of radios, the documentation problems aren't going to really kill you. And I've done videos to help you. They produced these things for a few years, and they just kept changing them as they were making them. And there's several pages in different little booklets that tell you what the changes are from one chassis to another. And there's also modifications that have to be done to this radio if you want to have it work 100%. But if you just want to get it working, there's really nothing really on shortwave to listen to. But it's the challenge of getting in there and getting those capacitors changed. I've showed you the tricks, some of the tricks. And some of the real downsides. The FM only oscillates up to 100 megahertz. So a lot of the rock stations are up at 101, 10. You may not get that. Even if you do everything to this radio, it may not work. The AM broadcast, DXing wise, it's pretty good. All right, for being a triple tune front end, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to change every capacitor inside the IF cans also. But there's a famous guy that designed the radio, and it's supposed to be a real looker. People say the radio's a real looker. It was designed by a guy. I don't know if he did a car or whatever, but he was an industrial designer, and he designed this radio. That makes it look different than any other. So a lot of people buy this just for a shelf queen, so they'll have one as a part of their collection, but they don't work on it. So they'll go around, oh, it's a really good radio, blah, 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 blah. So you get you sucked in. I'm going to tell you, this is probably one of the biggest pieces of 50-pound crap you could ever get. And it does work. And I bought it for the challenge. Okay, I saw that they said it's really hard to work on. And in your mind, you're thinking, well, I have a lot of tricks I've learned over the years. Well, you're going to have to make up some new tricks with this radio. And I showed you some of mine, my new ones. I had to come up with some new tricks. You got to take parts of the radio apart just to get one capacitor. And go read the groups. Well, I left those capacitors untouched. Big mistake. All right. You didn't do the full challenge. You didn't get the radio fully working properly. So you just danced around the real problem of this radio, getting to those 4 capacitors in the front end. And it doesn't take that long to take it apart. Once you know I have to take these undo a bolt and 4 wires. I can get right at that thing. Oh, you got to take the side panel off. Once you know that, it's bing, bing, bing. Those 2 capacitors that are real hard to get at are super easy to get at. The 2 that are slightly hard, if you solder them out on the chassis instead of way down at the bottom for their ground, that makes those 2 easy. You know, I've been going along, I'm thinking, well, how can I make it? So this has worked out for me. I work on it a little bit each day. If you look at it, you can see the dust is still on it. See, when I get a radio, I repair it first, and then I clean the dust off of it. And other people are dandies. They clean the radio all up. They clean the chassis and blah, 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 blah. And then when you see the end of their videos, they stop. They can't get it working. I'm the other way. I got this thing already working on almost all the bands except FM. I'm hoping when the discriminator gets recapped, the FM will start working. But you got to do a lot of reading on this thing. And don't worry too much about what model you got and all that. Start off by changing the capacitors one at a time. Check your resistors. No big deal on the resistors. The radio should still work. If you put the power on this radio and you have enough shorted capacitors, you'll take out the transformer, and then it'll be in a closet. I got to get a transformer for that, and you'll never do it. So that's the first warning. Do not plug this in. Don't waste your time on dim bulb. This thing needs its capacitors changed, and that includes the ceramics, papers, ceramics. There's a few the little ones that look like soda straws. They're under 100 picofarads. Those will be still okay. But this is the biggest 50-pound piece of crap I've ever owned. And I have some Hammerlands, and they're 50 pounds. I don't like them because they're so heavy. And they don't have triple tune. They have double tune front ends. And I needed something to work on. That's the absolute honest truth. I have to have something to work on every day. And I've been doing that. You know, I took the electrolytic out, and I made a little terminals in there, and I put my capacitors up on the terminals in the same place as where the electrolytic was. I know that electrolytic, when you first turn this radio on, might work for a few days, and then it'll go bad. Because I did all the reading. Someone says, yeah, I was okay with the cap, and then 3-4 days later, it went bad on them. So I've done all the reading on this thing, and I just wanted to warn you, do not buy this radio if you're a beginner. You're playing make-believe. Like the person that had this before me, trying to get 40 meters to work by spraying stuff everywhere, he made my life a little bit more miserable than this radio. This radio should make you a certain level of miserable. But when other people put their big knuckles in it, or their big thumbs, whatever you want to say, it raises the stakes on this radio. And I just wanted to vent my feelings about the radio. I have one now. I got it almost fully working. And you still have to do the mechanical part. If you're not good with mechanical, figuring out there's split gears in this thing, if you don't understand all that, you'll be screwed. You could be really good in radios and no dial cords. And this thing's got split gears, which are anti-backlash gears, and it's also got dial cords. It's a nightmare. And that module is out on the floor. It's out of the radio. I took it out. I took the dials off because I don't want to break anything while I'm doing the recap. And you can fully check the radio out with that section out of the radio. You know, you put over here. I don't know if I'm in the frame. I have a knob on the tuning cap. You know, all the controls, the most important controls, I have a knob on. And as I go through repairing each stage, I turn the radio on, make sure I didn't lose anything. You know, I'm very careful because you can put a mistake into one of these radios because they're difficult. And if you're not paying attention, you could put a wire back in the wrong place or a cap in the wrong place. And you could spend days troubleshooting back to what you did to the radio. But I just wanted to tell you, you go on these groups, go look at the ham radio review. And you'll see people, oh, my father gave me one of these radios and I had fun with it. See, never mentioned about the radio itself. It's the story around the radio. And the people that tell you it's really bad to work on, and what's wrong, and I've gone through it and done videos to tell you what to watch out for, how to get past this one part. As I find a solution, I show it to you. These other people don't do that, And then, of course, you got the strokers, the guy that gets one in really good shape. He puts it on the bench, he hooks an antenna to it, and he turns the dials, and he does a run through of the radio. That won't help you. If you own one of these, you need to repair it. There's certain things you need to know. And I showed you that tuning capacitor, the band spread. You know, when you're working on the radio and calibrating it, it has to be in this position. You know, I think I said 10 meters, 40 meters, and this side's 80, and this is off. And if you don't know that, you're going to calibrate the radio off. And then when you put it all together, it'll make you crazy. Let's just say, I'm trying to show you everything wrong with it, telling you everything I possibly learned about this thing. But there's several schematics for the same radio. And then there's other change sheets where, you know, take this capacitor and remove it, and then add a resistor. Go look at those. You might not want to be doing that. That's because they were shipping these things and they didn't work right. That's Hallicrafters. It's all about how their radios looked and sounded. And years ago, when I was helping sell shortwave radios, I loved the ICOM R71A, and one guy liked the is it Kenwood, and was it a 500, a 5000? Radio had better sound than the R71A, but it didn't have the selectivity or the sensitivity. But people would come in and they'd sit and they'd compare the radios, and they'd make the wrong choice because they got fooled by the styling of the radio, because the Kenwood is modern looking, like a stereo, and the R71A is more of a military look. So people buy things for sometimes the wrong reasons. They come in through the door looking for a certain thing, and they get screwed over by marketing. And this radio looks really nice, and it does work to some degree. But go really dig, and someone says, yeah, you can't get the FM band to go past 100 megahertz. Yeah, it's pretty funny stuff, huh? You see that band on it, oh, it goes to 108. No, it don't. It goes to 100. And these are the things, you know, you say to me, oh, you're negative. Well, I own one. I did all the reading. I know how hard it is to work on it because I'm almost finished. And there's things I look at, like this thing over here with the little threaded, some type of coil over here. It could be in the, I don't know if it's not the BFO. Maybe it is the BFO. No, so anyway, this stuff, when I look at this radio, I don't even know what it is. And I have to go looking. And one of the things you'll see is these two transformers, which are really dirty. Those are the audio output, the push-pull. It's got two tubes in the final output of just the audio. Oh, and this also has a regulator tube in it, which is rare on Hallicrafters. A lot of the Hallicrafter models, they don't regulate the B+ voltage. And that's really important for to keep the BFO oscillator and the local oscillator from drifting. I think I've said enough. I think that's it. All right, that's it.